Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the United She Stands podcast. We have a really cool guest today. His name is Andrew Grossman. He's a nationally recognized campaign innovator and leader specializing in strategy, campaign management, and executive recruitment for campaigns, nonprofits, and advocacy groups and unions. Since starting Grossman Solutions in 2007, he helped pass the Affordable Care Act, served as director of the Democratic National Convention Platform Committee at 4 different times, and created a distinctive talent recruitment practice, placing hundreds of leaders at organizations including America Vote, Planned Parenthood, and several Democratic Party committees. His earlier roles included executive and political director at the DSCC, founder and president of Wal Mart Watch, and field organizer for Jesse Jackson's 1988 campaign. Today, we're here to talk about Battleground Alliance, which he founded, and that is a PAC focused on building a sustained House majority for Democrats with lasting organizing presence in districts across the United States, including here in Ohio, which we talk about today. This was a really fun conversation, a really informative conversation, and I think a really hopeful conversation. So we hope you enjoy.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you so much for joining us today on the show.
Thanks for having me. Real pleasure.
Yeah. So let's start with kind of your beginning. You started as a field organizer on Jesse Jackson's 1988 campaign and have spent nearly 4 decades in progressive politics. And so you've placed hundreds of leaders at organizations across the progressive movement. What's the through line in all of that work for you?
Well, I included in my work over those years. In 1988, when I worked for Reverend Jackson, I spent about 3 weeks in Ohio living at a friend's dorm room in Yellow Springs, where Dave Chappelle is from, and and had a wonderful 3 weeks in May of 1988 in your fine state. So I'm happy to talk about Ohio politics today a little bit. From an early age, I've been a political campaigner and a political organizer. I'm a field organizer by training and an advanced guy and a campaign manager. As I became, kind of achieved positions where I became a manager of larger organizations, I really always enjoyed the hiring process in kind of building team and thinking about who I wanted to have on my team as an executive director of different organizations. And so after I started my consultancy, where we do also political strategy and political campaigns like this, like Battleground, we kind of fell into developing a hiring practice, a search practice. And we've had over the years, we have an opportunity to help clients hire hundreds of people at all the different organizations around kind of like the center left to left of our politics. And it's been a really remarkable opportunity. It feeds my natural curiosity. I get to meet such interesting and smart people from all sorts of different walks of life and from all across the United States and across the world. And so for me, it's very enriching because I get to kind of feed my curiosity beast.
Yeah, your career is just also interesting to us. It's so cool, honestly, because as we've done this, that's obviously we do a podcast. We love talking to people about all this stuff and meeting so many people, to your point, across the United States, across Ohio for us. It's really incredible. So you mentioned it, but let's jump into Battleground Alliance. Walk us through what it is, how it came together, and just kind of who's behind it.
So Battleground Alliance is modeled after Battleground New York, which I ran in 2024, and Battleground California, which both organizations still exist and are operating in their own states. And they came together like that. That originally was about the fact that in New York, the Democrats had lost a bunch of all the close races in 2022. Mm-hmm. And it's not what you'd expect in a blue state. How would the Democrats with muscle lose in all the close races? And it's because it kind of fits the pattern. All of the battleground districts in New York are all flipped back and forth between the parties, depending on who the president is. And that's the same with the Ohio districts too. And it's the same for districts in Michigan, and it's the same for districts in Wisconsin and Arizona. And so after our success with Battleground New York and Battleground California, reversing losses from 2022, kind of a coalition came together to put together a national effort to build on-the-ground field operations grounded in local organization with rigor to go and help the Democrats win House races in 2026, because we need a lever to stop Donald Trump's assault on the United States. And the House of Representatives is our best bet.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned it a little bit. I want to talk about what happened with Battleground New York in 2024. For those who don't know that story, what happened in the state and why did it work when so much else didn't?
So we were super successful in New York, and one of the bright spots around the country where the Democrats flipped the Democrats flipped 4 out of the 6 races in New York, and we were able to help them do that. We helped first in the special election in the winter of 2024 to help Tom Suozzi win the New York 3rd District. And then we were instrumental in supporting Congresswoman Laura Gillen in New York 4th District, Congressman Josh Riley in New York 19th, and Congressman John Mannion in New York 22, all win their races. We knocked on hundreds of thousands of doors. I think we were a really great, effective field operation that also incorporated local partners, people who were building infrastructure on the ground in place to help support and work with them so that we can always build in place, because these districts are always going to be the swing districts that go back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know you mentioned you guys are now doing that, obviously, nationally. I think I read that you're targeting 37 Republican held House districts. Is that correct?
That's right. We're focused on Republican held districts currently. For the most part, we have one district where it's an open seat with a Democrat leaving, the main 2nd district for all of your nerds out there. And there's the 37 districts that match what the the most likely districts to flip based on a whole range of different factors. If you look at the Cook Political Report or the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, you would see the same kind of a match of the districts around the country, that all the Democrats around the country, all the progressive groups and labor unions and people who are activated in district are all focused on kind of the same set of about 40 or 45 districts around the country that we could flip.
Yeah. I think I want to say 2 things. One, I don't know if you mentioned it when I was looking into everything, you have a coalition of quite a few things, labor organizations, the working family parties as part of this coalition, which I think is like a really exciting thing for us to see. So I think that's really cool. And we know that, at least, like I said, what I read, you guys are investing $50 million across these 37 specific seats. We know, though, that we actually only need to flip 3 House seats to take back the House. So can you talk a little bit about the strategy on like why go broad and go bigger than, versus like focusing on just like all the resources in like 3 spots?
So it's a debate among all, I think the political community is debating this question of strategy, and I'm glad to talk to you a little bit about it. I see benefit in looking at both sides of the debate, I would say, or maybe the span of the debate as we think it through. So we do only need to win a couple of seats. However, the first is the opportunity for a bigger win is there. On average, since 2006, 4.9 seats, 35 seats have switched sides in each of the midterm elections. 2022 is a few fewer. The Republican wave in 2022 is not as strong as some of the prior waves during that time period. So on average, we should expect that we could pick up as many as 35 seats. And that fits inside to where the losses that the Republicans had, the wins that the Democrats had in 2025 come into play. We overperformed, our electorate overperformed compared to the total electorate in all of the special elections. In the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, in the New Jersey governor's race was remarkable. The turnout was among Democrats was incredible, and in the Virginia governor's race as well. And so we had this opportunity to go pick up a broader number of seats. So that's the question is, do we go win the majority and do everything we can to go win the majority? Or do we go broader for the opportunity to both win the majority and have a more expansive majority? The win the majority side, the first answer is yes, we have to win the majority. Job one. So we all need to collectively, the community needs to collectively fund and activate and organize inside each of the congressional districts that are the closest races. And you could look in a couple of different places to kind of define who those closest races are. The political world kind of knows there's about 15 or 16 of them that span from, there's a couple in Pennsylvania, a couple in Ohio, a couple in Michigan, a couple in Wisconsin, a couple in Arizona, that are the closest races. Both, people are smart on both sides of the aisle. And the political operatives on the Republican side are also looking at those same races and saying, okay, we're going to stop that attack on us, and we're going to try to draw that to even. So even as we go fund and activate and organize inside those closest races, so are our Republican opponents. And so we need to both win a number of those races, win the disproportionate share. And just to give you a sense, the winner of the wave usually wins about 3/4 of those races. So we should win the majority in those 15 or 16 races that are the closest. But then to make sure that we do, we have to pick up some of the others as well. And so that's where the opportunity, we need to go a little bit bigger, and the opportunity, so we need to go get bigger just to secure our win. Finally, there's one more piece, which is the politics of 2028. Our country's in tumult. And so it's hard to predict what is going to look like to protect our majority in the 2028 elections. And that includes having the caucus have the ability to, on certain issues, vote with the Republicans on some things. And we have to be realistic of that. That's going to happen. And it may disappoint us in the moment, but it does need to happen in some cases to protect our majority. And so if we can grow the number of seats we can have, then it's going to be easier for the Democratic Party to be actually unified as a body in the House of Representatives. And we want that. And the best example of that is, look what's happening in the House now with the Republicans having their narrow majority. It's unworkable, and we need something better than that.
Yeah. I just want to say one thing too. As people who believe that we should be running people and trying to be as competitive everywhere that we can be, we love your strategy. So we'll say that to start.
Thank you.
I also look at it as like, I know that you guys are focused on the House, but our state seats are so important, and doing this work, this investment also helps our state houses. And that's something that Republicans have done much better than us. And so I think just a win for up and down the ballot to make this investment across the board.
Well, and it's so interesting. The House candidate in a multi-candidate environment, when you have the competitive governor's race, the competitive Senate race, the House candidate has a specific need in that mix of building their name recognition, of making sure that the Democrats know who they are, so that when they vote for Senate and they vote for governor, they also vote for House. Yeah. That vote for House is also the bridge to voting for state Senate and for state representative for so many people as well. And so that tie, everybody kind of always tries to make a tie between the top of the ticket and the congressional race, but there's also a tie between the congressional race and the state legislative races. And in places where those are nested together, the opportunity is great to win across the board.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very exciting. This year, very exciting.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about some of the Ohio races specifically that y'all are looking at and focused on?
So we're looking at 3 races in Ohio that we're particularly excited about. The first is the Ohio 7th District, where President Trump's favorite congressman is running for re-election against the primary winner, a great member of the Iron Workers Union. The team then we're also looking at the 10th District, which is what's great. That's down in the Dayton area. The great thing about the 10th District, it's one of the districts that has the most federal workers in it of any congressional district in the country, near the top. And as the tax on the federal government from the Trump administration have been so strong in this district, it will really resonate in a place where there's so many federal workers. And then in the 15th district as well, we think all 3 of those targets are great ones. And those are great places where if we win those districts, it's a tremendous opportunity. It will put us into with a strong majority and will help the Democrats govern.
Yeah, that's so exciting to hear you say.
I know.
Because those are like 3 races we're so excited about
this year.
Yeah.
How about that?
I know. And like those are great.
3 Democratic incumbents too, right? There's 3 seats we have to defend. Not Battleground Alliance's job. We're just doing the Republican incumbents. But in Ohio, you have 6 races where the House of Representatives may be determined this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And those 3 you specifically mentioned, like, we're very excited about those candidates. It's Poindexter, it's Knickerbocker, it's Don Leonard. And like, it's just so exciting to hear you talk about those people because we're really excited about those candidates and we would love to see them.
They sound like an 1880s Ohio baseball team, right?
Yeah, they really do. Yeah, put them all together. Yeah.
We're really excited about them for sure.
So I'm so curious about I'd love to hear about, the Ohio 7th District. For those of your listeners, Ohio 7th District is Max Miller. Max Miller, there's so many things to talk about with Max Miller. He did vote to defund the Cleveland area teaching hospitals with his vote on the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and he voted to defund food benefits for so many people in Ohio that don't go into effect until after he's up for re-election, which is just even more devious. He did vote to cut health care for tens of thousands of people who who are his neighbors and the people that he represents. But he also is now accused of throwing scalding water at his wife, and I think it's a package. It seems like with him. He seems like a very challenged person.
Yeah, and I love the tidbit that his ex-wife is Senator Marino's daughter.
Which is just a whole other layer of Ohio politics, yeah.
Well, and I'm curious, I think that is I think the fact that the people in Ohio, Republicans in this district, voted for Senator Moreno and for Max Miller. It's an interesting question about how that plays out locally in politics this year because of it being a family situation.
Yeah, it is. I think so. Great. Full transparency. Yeah, we haven't paid super close attention to District 7 yet. It's on our list to kind of cover as we roll in here. That primary was like so crowded. It was just an interesting race on the Democratic side. So we were really excited to see Poindexter come out of that. I think he is a really great candidate. I just think like if someone can go take Max Miller, I do think it's him. And so I'm excited about that. It's obviously a gerrymandered district, as most of Ohio's are, but it's one that, I think we're eternal optimists, but like also we recognize that like we see what we see because of the people we're around. We know like local orgs, they're like they've been doing work for years to build like blue power. And so I think I'm really optimistic about that district. I think that Republicans, full transparency, all the stuff Donald Trump doesn't draw the line for them. So I'm not sure that like any of Max Miller's bad characteristics are going to like change that. But I think what it just means is they maybe just don't go vote, which is fine, but I think on the other side of that is that the Democrats have been doing so much work on the ground. There's so many organizations we know about over there that, have been doing voter turnout. And I know now your organization as well is going to be on the ground there. So just the educational information for voters, voter turnout effort. I mean, it's just so important when you look at turnout in general, especially in a non-presidential year. So I think we can take it. I mean, I'm a really optimistic person. Yeah. I don't know if I'm a good measure, but yeah, no, I think they can do it.
I think it's a good point to call out, like, yes, Max Miller is obviously scum of the earth type of person. But yeah, to your point, Ash, like that doesn't really do it for folks that are Trump supporters or some folks that are Trump supporters. But I don't think it hurts. I don't think it hurts Poindexter's campaign for Max Miller to continue to spiral and all of this stuff come out about him. And yeah, like you said, if it keeps people home, awesome, great. That means they're not voting for Vivek. That means they're not voting for Max Miller. And that's a fantastic win for the left.
And John Hughes did.
Yeah.
I think that running for office is a hard thing to do. The people who run for office have to have tremendous focus. They work enormous numbers of hours. They have competing demands on their time. When you're an office holder, you have responsibilities as an office holder that you have to commit to. And so it's a hard thing to do. He now is in the middle of, he sued his ex-wife, I think today, and he is, or his soon to be ex-wife, he sued her today for defamation. He's not thinking about what it takes to win office, and that matters. And so overall, I think he's a damaged candidate. And then I think that I find it hard to believe that the women who are regular voters in the Cleveland 7th District who voted Republican for Donald Trump and who voted Republican for Senator Moreno and who might vote Republican for the U.S. Senate this year, in the midst of this is not a partisan thing. This is a family thing, and it shows somebody's true colors about who he is as a human being. I think that they will probably choose not to vote for him. So I think this district, I think this is a district where the Democrats, if we stay focused and organized and build towards Election Day in a place where it's not usual for the Democratic Party to do that, because usually where the Democratic Party is closer in Cleveland and Columbus and Cincinnati and the bigger population centers. In the suburbs, we've lost a little bit of our muscle. And this is something that we need to that's why we're coming together to organize now.
Yeah. And some of those orgs we were talking about specifically are Medina County orgs we're aware of. So that's not even, what I mean? But that's that district. And they have done we've seen that vote in that district shift left. So yeah, I think the other big thing is the candidate running. I mean, he really is an exciting candidate. He's not your normal politics guy. And I think that really, we're seeing at least that really energized people here in Ohio. So I think that's another exciting piece of it.
That's right.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we were out of town when Bernie came.
I know. We did miss the Bernie rally. We were not here, but
so bummed about it. But yes, we're super excited about Poindexter. And I think it's, to Ashley's point, like it's a great candidate paired up with Max Miller being a shit human.
Yeah.
It's like, this is perfect. Like, this is great. This is a great matching. And yeah, I think I'm optimistic as well, but of course we live in Ohio, so we have to take everything with a grain of salt. But yeah, I think it's super exciting to watch the next few months.
I think all of your listeners should also, again, we do have the 3 incumbent Democrats too who need protection. And part of winning control is making sure that we don't lose Democratic incumbents. And so I think that it's really important, while there's these great pickup opportunities in Ohio, all of the collective work, the 6 districts, thinking about Ohio as a whole, makes Ohio unique. But it's the biggest number of targeted districts for any state in the country if you add up both sides races that are up for grabs. So there's Ohio is really going to be the center of the House of Representatives fight this year, just as it has been since Ohio entered the Union.
Yeah. And just for listeners that maybe don't know the 3 districts, those 3 that we have to hold are captors. So Marcy Captor up in like the northwest part of the state. My district, which is Amelia Sykes, that's like Summit County, Akron, Canton, and then Greg Landsman down in Cincinnati. So District 1. So those are the 3 districts when we're talking about the ones we have to hold. Those are the 3 to hold. The other 2 Democratic districts are pretty safe.
Yeah.
Districts. So yeah.
Okay, let's. Ohio is more than Pennsylvania. It's more than Michigan. It's more than Arizona. Those are and Florida as well. Those are the other big states where there are multiple districts that are at play this year.
Yeah. It's an exciting time to be Ohio, honestly.
Yeah, I didn't know, like with counting the seats we have to hold and the ones that we can flip, that, wow, yeah, all eyes on Ohio.
I was just going to say, like, all eyes are over here, guys. Yeah. I promise we're not as red as we look. Okay.
Exactly.
Let's talk about the ground game a little bit. So you know, the PAC, specifically the Battleground Alliance PAC, you guys are focused on registration and turnout. Like that's kind of the big part of the operation, not just kind of like ads and airway. So can you break down what that actual work on the ground looks like in one of these districts, for example? What it looks like on the ground.
So the kind of the centerpiece of our program is what we call Know Your Neighbor, which is our name for our relational organizing work. In every instance, in all of our work, I should take a step back. In all of our work, we will work with local organization first. We're not trying to build a new organization or an election vehicle. We want to work with local organizations in every opportunity we can. And so our Know Your Neighbor program, our relational organizing program, will take the form of how our partners want to make that work in place. So in some instances, that might look like a precinct organizing campaign. In another instance, it might show up as you work your own list of the people who are in your address book. Or in another case, it might be in some communities, more of a mutual aid approach where there's a community collective doing a piece of work, perhaps around public policy, perhaps around food assistance, and any range of different topics locally that then becomes politicized around elections as well, because people get politically involved. And so that Know Your Neighbor work will be active in all of the districts in Ohio and around the country doing that piece of work. And that's a more intimate form of communications of where people we're enlisting people who live in a community or have a community of their own friends and loved ones who make sure that people go out and vote. That's part one. The second part is we're going to knock on doors. We firmly believe in door knocking as one of the most powerful tactics in increasing voter turnout, because it's a reminder for people to do what we want them to do on election day, which is to go in and vote. And so we'll be knocking on doors as well. We'll also be communicating with our voters that we're interested in with all of the other tactics that go along with communications in our current environment. We'll be texting people, we'll be sending people direct mail, all with messaging that is about the cost of living, about the chaos and around Donald Trump and the Republicans, and then holding the Republican member of Congress accountable for their action as much as for their inaction in running the United States. So that work, all of that work works in concert. First, lead with the early work around the relational organizing campaign, using during the summertime to do that. And then over the course of the fall, building that work even further. and then adding in more and more door knocks as our primary tools. And that combination is so powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. We love door knocking,
We love
honestly.
door knocking.
We are very big into the digital space and digital organizing specifically.
I love canvassing. Yeah.
It's fun.
It is
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. We were both, or
You just
I'll
like
speak.
to interview people. That's great. That's amazing.
Yeah. I was definitely scared to do it like my first time, but after I was knocking doors for the reproductive amendment in Ohio back in 2023, and I was in a very blue area of the Columbus city, and so I was set up for success, which really helped. But ever since then, I've been really into door knocking. So I love that y'all are still focusing on traditional organizing and ways to get people out. But how do you think that, specifically targeting those folks that are hit hardest by the Republican agenda, people losing healthcare, people facing SNAP cuts, and folks who can't afford medication, specifically when you talk to those voters, how do you kind of help them convert that anger into turning out and showing up at the polls?
Well, I think that every voter needs information and needs to be educated about what's happening in their life does connect back to politics. And sometimes some people need more information because they don't get it in their everyday lives. And hopefully we can all collectively provide that to people. We have to constantly remind people. And some of these, some of the worst about what's about to happen because of the one big beautiful bill isn't happening now yet in the election season. So people may not be feeling it. The most obvious is that, we can attach clearly the dollar a gallon we're all paying more for gas and the follow-through costs of that over the course of the summer to the Republican chaos. Republicans in the House, the Trump administration are chaotic at best. They're not governing the country properly. Things are spiraling out of control, and it's causing all of us economic harm. And so we have an opportunity to engage people around that because they're feeling it the most directly, and it's so clear and people know that. I think we should trust the voters, and I think that the results of the 2025 gubernatorial election in New Jersey and in Virginia show that if you trust the voters, they're going to show up and make the difference in the election.
Yeah, I totally agree. I want to talk a little bit about just some of the stuff we've kind of been talking about around, like, we know that it's, the midterm is a time when seats flip traditionally to the other party versus kind of who's sitting in the presidency. So we kind of know on average what that should look like. But I think people are expecting Democrats to have an even bigger year because of a lot of the chaos you just talked about and the dysfunction from the Trump administration. So do you believe 2026 will be kind of a really large blue wave, as they would call it? And I guess more importantly, maybe for me, is what is the danger on kind of like people just counting on that wave versus like actually saying, no, we still need to like go out and build and do all the work?
Well, thank you for asking that question. I want to note for the political people who listen to your podcast, that President Trump has raised $300 million so far to help defend the Republican congressional control because he has so much at stake. He can't have Democrats in control of the House of Representatives. And that money is going to go into tearing down the Democrats, into just pure muscle of advertising and field organization in all of these districts. And so the Republicans have a tremendous financial advantage. Second is, they've in an unprecedented manner changed the political map this year and have probably caused the Democrats through redistricting to lose what will end up being kind of a net 4 seats, maybe 5 seats around the country, where they through their mechanics of taking over, using redistricting as a tool to change the map midstream, they secured a couple of additional seats. We know that they are saying that they're going to be more assertive at the post box, at the mailbox, at the postal service. They're going to be more assertive. We're all expecting armed people show up at polling places at the farthest extreme, and maybe that doesn't happen, but maybe it does. We have to protect our canvassers and our poll watchers and poll workers perhaps in ways that we haven't in the past. The intimidation that came with all of the immigration raids has probably made it a little bit more harder to both recruit people to go do voter contact work because it's a little scary out there, but also for people who might not want to open the doors because you never know who's coming to your door now in the modern era that we live in. And so we know that there's all of this incredible effort to keep control of the House of Representatives in Republican hands. It matters. Like, that's a campaign. They're doing an effort to make sure that they keep control. And the races that are the 12 or 15 or 18 most competitive races in the country that will determine the control of the House of Representatives, both sides kind of know where that battlefield is. And the smartest and most talented people on the Republican side and the smartest and most talented people on the Democratic side are going to be in the same place, doing everything they can to get every little advantage to try to get the win. And so since both sides are smart people and all of this is at stake in a country that is so divided, then we can't trust the result and we have to work at it. It means that people have to go from being activated, from staying awake with anxiety when we scroll and read the news too late at night or too early in the morning, to go from being activated to organizing. Organizing means that we can go and take back the country. And so we can't stop organizing or else we'll fail.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Ashley, too. Like, we don't want to bank on a blue wave, like, as much as I really want to. And I've even found myself kind of like, okay, it's going to be okay. Like, there's going to be a blue wave for sure. But yeah, to your point, Andrew, we cannot stop organizing. We have to keep going, literally forever, it feels like. But we will reach an end and we will reach a time where we can nap, but it's not now.
Yeah. You can nap, you can take a break, but you don't get to stop overall.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Democratic Party. A bit relevant because the report about the 2024 election was just released yesterday, and it's kind of a shit show. So the Democrats have always struggled, or most recently struggled, with the party of problem, the party of coastal elites, out of touch, not speaking to working class voters. Overall, the brand isn't great, and I actually just listened to an NPR podcast. They are doing kind of focus groups each month from different parts of the country, mostly kind of independents or people who have voted for Trump, just trying to get their perspective on things. And the one I just listened to, they were in North Carolina, I believe. All of them were either independents or Republicans, and they all said, like, the Democratic Party, from their view, we're not aligned on a specific message. It's kind of chaos, yada, yada, yada. So it's very, very evident to even folks on the other side that we don't have this kind of unity within the party. So specifically with Battleground Alliance, does kind of your model speak to that directly, that problem, or how are you thinking about the Democratic brand in general?
So first is, we're general election only. Part of, I worked at the beginning of my career, I worked at the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. And during the time I worked there, I worked for a senator from South Dakota who had another Democratic senator from South Dakota who won the re-election by just a handful of votes in one of the hardest states in the country this prior cycle. There was two Democratic senators from North Dakota. At the time, there was a Democratic senator from Montana. There's a Democratic senator from Nebraska, Democratic senator from Arkansas. And then also from Louisiana. And I would say I would love to have Democratic senators from all those states today. And that's something I think that all of us should be thinking about. And I would love to have a Democratic senator from Ohio. So like we did then too. So I think about that often, and I think that really is important. I think, there's a lot that's said about the divisions inside the Democratic Party and some of our issues around our brand. But I also think it's important for us to know that the Democrats are united in wanting to not have the country go where it's headed. And that unity we should celebrate and lift up. And it shows up in so many ways. The people from all walks of life who are going to know Kings, the remarkable, when the Democrats got bad polling numbers in the summertime in the New Jersey governor's race, party apparatus went to work and unified and created a common campaign that we went to organized, and and the whole community surrounded the new governor with love and resources and energy. And so first is, we're in fact way more unified than sometimes we give ourselves credit for. I think it's absolutely true that with for the last couple of years, we have not been talking to voters about economics. We've been talking to voters about make a plan to vote, which was devoid of message. It was all about the mechanics. We talked about voters about Donald Trump. We haven't been talking to voters about the cost of living, and we haven't been talking to voters about what's most important to them. And that goes through all of the through line from 2017 through today. We haven't been communicating with the voters about how what we think is aligned with what we hope will be with what they think. We also have so I think overall, like we have to put the economy back into what we say and do every single day, because otherwise that's what this is really all about. We want to help Americans prosper.
Yeah, that's where people are hurting, right? I mean, that's really the reality of it. I think, just thank you for saying like the unity thing and giving the New Jersey example, because I like the Democratic brand is such a weird topic for me, because there's days I'm like, I'm mad at the brand. Like I'm mad at the DNC, or I'm mad at like whatever. But then there's times where I'm like, I feel like when people talk about it, it's just so general. And it's like the Democratic Party is just like us. Like it's just all of us. It's whoever's out here fighting for Democrats. And that's where I think that's why like the work you're doing, you guys are doing the work to change the brand. You're getting you're on the ground, you're working with the local orgs, you're knocking on the doors, you're talking to the voters. And I think that's just like what I always try to remind folks when I hear a lot of complaints about the Democratic Party. I'm like, well, then join your local county party, like change it. You can be the Democratic Party. And so, just thank you for like the examples. I think that was a really good way to say that. So like I said, you've said this is not about 2026. Obviously, it's about building a sustained House majority and really a lasting organizing presence in these districts. So what does that actually mean? Like, what are you building that survives past November 2026?
So let me give you an example. I think that I hope in Ohio is how we'll work in Ohio this year. There's a couple of really amazing political organizations in Ohio that do great work and that are doing organizing work and who we will expect to partner with. We've already done a little bit of partnership work with Red, Wine, and Blue earlier in the year. Our team is in close coordination with the Ohio Organizing Collaborative around the House races and how they're thinking about their work and how we'll coordinate with them over the course of the year. And those two organizations are vibrant, interesting, Ohio-based organizations that are doing work that's so important in trying to change government in Ohio, and who are trying to take Ohio back. And so as this work unfolds every year, and the work that is around the tactics of communicating, of building membership, of talking to people, that ongoing work through the funding stream of elections helps those organizations prosper, we hope, and that's our intent in every way. And it allows them to have resources to engage people that they want to talk to about politics in a way that the electoral funding allows for them to do so much more during an election year as well. And so, and they know, they're really smart people who know what they're doing in Ohio, and they've got ideas about how to do the work that you all need to do to win back the state, both at the governorship, at the state legislative level. And so if our work can coincide with that and be supportive, that will allow then for a successful 2028 in Ohio and a successful 2030 in Ohio. And then there's the next round of redistricting that happens both at the state legislative level and at the federal level in Ohio. And so the 2032 as well. And so there's election after election after election, but change is generational and we have to build towards that.
Yeah.
All right, Andrew, we have one last question for you. For someone listening to this in Ohio who wants to be part of what Battleground Alliance is doing, what do you want them to know? And how do they get involved?
So first is, I hope people will go to Act Blue and support Battleground Alliance. We definitely we'll be very, we use your generosity very well in winning back the House of Representatives. In Ohio, we hope that you'll go check out our great partner organizations on the ground, Red, Wine, and Blue. We just did a wonderful piece of work with them around the No Kings March, and we're very excited for our collaboration with them. And then the Ohio Organizing Collaborative does really amazing work all around the state, help in talking to voters and talking to people in the community, educating them about public policy, talking to them about elections. And we hope that people in Ohio will also support those two organizations.
Yeah, those are both incredible orgs. We know them. And yeah, we will definitely have all of that linked in the show notes, the Act Blue link, and links to all those organizations. Andrew, thank you so much for your time today. But thank you also just for all the work you've done throughout your entire career to fight for progress across our country. It's,
Thank you so much.
we need so many people doing it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.